Wife Priti Choksi, who's claiming that her husband was abducted from Antigua and questioned why Choksi was tortured and abused. Here is Priti Choksi in conversation with India Today.
What exactly do you, as the Mehul Choksi's wife, think about the current situation that is going on?
We are anguished, deeply anguished at how he has been treated, how his life has been put at risk in this kidnapping attempt. And we are shocked at some of the comments that are coming in the media from the administration of Antigua and Barbuda. He is a citizen.
Priti Choksi joins us now live from Antigua. Ma'am, can you give us your best sense of what you know, what's happening inside the courtroom in Antigua at this moment, and why is it that you believe that the Indian government's case for Mehul Choksi, your husband, to be sent back to India is weak?
Good evening, Rahul. I think you meant what is happening in the High Court of Dominica at this moment. Honestly, I am not aware. My heart is, I cannot tell you what we are going through as a family. We are traumatized, and I am not watching the news. I'm talking to you. So
I appreciate that. Can you give us a sense of what really went down in Antigua? We've heard so many different stories, so many theories about how Mehul Choksi ended up in Dominica. It's on the 23rd of May that he was reported missing from Antigua and Barbuda. Were you with him at that moment? When is the last time you spoke to him, and how did your husband go missing, ma'am?
He left home to go for dinner. He left home at 5:10 p.m. on Sunday the 23rd, and he then went to pick up a lady called Barbara who was joining him for dinner. When he got there, he was in his car, and she came out of the house and she said, "Can you come in for a moment? I want to show you something." She said she is in the renovation business of houses and things. My husband stepped out of the car. The car was left running. His house keys and everything was in the car. He went to just see what she was showing. All the house doors were open. After he entered that house, from both sides, men dressed in navy blue pants and a jacket rushed in from both ends and claimed, and some of them had Indian accents, they claimed that they were police. They knew who he was, and they were going to take him to St. John's police station. He knew. They started hitting him then, and they started tasering him. Then they put him in a wheelchair, tied him up, gagged his mouth, put a mask over his head, and put him in the whole wheelchair into a smaller boat or some sort of boat, and took him out. He was half conscious, half unconscious. He next remembers being lifted onto a bigger boat. Now, I have heard that that boat is the Calliope de Arms. And as soon as that boat, which was illegally at that time in Antiguan waters, left Antiguan waters, it turned its GPS off. So after that, that is what we know about his being taken.
Pardon me asking a bit of an awkward question, but the Antiguan Prime Minister came on record with India Today to say that Barbara Jabarika, this lady who travelled with Mehul Choksi to Dominica, was his girlfriend. What are you making of the Antiguan Prime Minister's claims that your husband Mehul Choksi actually willingly accompanied Barbara?
As the entire family, we are deeply anguished by the comments of the Antiguan Prime Minister. First of all, there is a police investigation on, and I believe he should have waited for the facts to come out before making these kind of comments. If that lady went supposedly to Dominica, where is she? Where is the Dominican police report on her? When they found my husband in Dominica, he was put into, from this boat into a boat of another police vessel, and he told them who he was, that he's an Antiguan, and that he has been kidnapped. Where is the kidnapping report of my husband, which is a crime? It is an international crime, kidnapping. So my question is, where is this boat today? Where is the crew? And where is Barbara?
Do you know Barbara? Have you ever met her? Because from what I'm reading from Antigua, apparently Mehul used to go out for walks with her very frequently. Did you know of Barbara as being one of his friends?
So I have not met Barbara. I have never talked to Barbara, but I do know that she and her girlfriend or boyfriend had taken a house very near to our house in August of last year, from 2nd August to 7th of August. And at that time, when my husband would go for a walk, or she would join like a normal walking thing. And other people also knew her because the walkers know each other. And then I believe she came to the island again in April and tried to make contact with my husband. Then also I know that in May she made contact with my husband, and they went for a walk again on Friday and Saturday, May 21st and May 22nd on Jolly Beach South, which is a very public beach. My husband doesn't like to walk in secluded beaches. That is what I know about her, but I also know that there are reports that she left the island at about 7 or 8 p.m. on the day of the kidnapping.
Does she sound like your sense of whether someone put her up to this? Was she a honey trap? Was she part of some operation, business rivalry, or investigative agencies probably who were trying to whisk your husband away from Antigua? What's your sense, ma'am?
Well, from what I have heard is that the picture that is being circulated in the media is not the same woman who was the Barbara that was here. That in itself is a big question mark. And I believe that she goes by 3 names so far, that her profiles have been constantly changing. Someone is maintaining her accounts or whatever. So you do not even have the real picture of the Barbara who was here.
Can I ask you, in what way is she different, the Barbara who'd walk with your husband and the Barbara that you're seeing on TV?
May I just complete?
Yes.
May I just complete?
Please.
From what it is, indications seem to be that she was not who she was. She may be working for another agency, maybe, and investigations are on.
Okay. And how have the last several months been since 2017? Now we've got the Indian government claiming that your husband never really gave up formally and technically his Indian nationality, even though he took up Antiguan nationality, because some of the documents which have been submitted back were not submitted back, even though the law says that when you assume nationality of another country, you then become a national of that country and you cease to be an Indian national. But what are you making of what's playing itself out at this moment?
Again, as I said, I'm not aware of what is being played out, but I do know one thing, that my husband became a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda in 2017. He became so legally. There was the government of Antigua and Barbuda had a check done on him by Interpol in 2017, and the Indian government had not the government. The foreign ministry and the police had given a no objection certificate in 2017. He became a citizen of Antigua, and as per what our lawyers tell us, and as per the Constitution of India, anyone who becomes a citizen of another country relinquishes their citizenship of India automatically. There are no ifs and buts.
The Indian government at this time is very hopeful that they'll be able to get Mehul Choksi back. In some senses, your husband, ma'am, has become a showcase for the government's efforts to go after economic offenders. Are you a worried woman at this time that your husband's fate quite literally hangs by a thread depending on what happens in this court in Dominica?
I would say that if this is how you showcase, or anyone wishes to showcase an economic offender by torturing them, threatening to kill them, giving them electrical shocks, it is incredible that any business person feels safe in India. My husband was a businessman. He never had an NPA until this whole saga of PNB started, alleged saga. There was never an NPA in the company. And yet, everything is like he is the biggest terrorist or murderer on earth. I would request Interpol and all the world bodies, human rights bodies, and everyone to understand that this is a kidnapping that went wrong, and it should not be allowed to become a hostage situation. My husband is a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda, and it is the duty of Antigua and Barbuda to look after their citizens. They must take him back, and he should not become a hostage in a country where he is not a citizen and does not enjoy any legal rights or protection.
Okay, and finally, we haven't had an opportunity to speak to you before this. You would permit me to ask, what do you make of the charges? There's a case by the CBI, there's a charge by the Enforcement Directorate as well. Your husband is charged in the Punjab National Bank case of fraud, to a very, very high extent, along with Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi. So what do you have to say about the charges that have been leveled both by the CBI and the ED against your husband, ma'am?
I believe that charges are accusations of one side, and investigation should be done on them. When someone refuses to come and take a statement, that again brings up a lot of question marks. But the main thing is that why are the people who are investigating this, firstly, in the first case, the Nirav Modi case, which was filed on 29th of January 2018, and the FIR, I believe you call it, 31st of January 2018.
Now a charge sheet. The FIR came initially on the 31st of January 2018, but after that the CBI has gone out and filed a charge sheet in May.
Rahul, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
May I? That in that FIR, it is claimed by the Punjab National Bank, the second largest bank of India, that he was a partner of a company called Diamonds R Us. My husband ceased to be a partner of that company in May 2020, 18 years previously. I fail to understand why his name was included, and I believe the press should have investigated this. Also, the CBI should have investigated this.
Can I ask you, why do you think your husband's name was included?
Charge sheet. Now let's the charge sheet that was filed in Nirav Modi's case. I believe in that charge sheet, my husband is not charged with anything, because he was not ever involved with Nirav Modi. We had no business transactions with Nirav Modi.
Well, I have a copy of the charge sheet over here. It says that it is alleged that LOUs were unauthorized used by the accused bank officials in conspiracy with Nirav Modi, Nishal Modi, Mehul, Chinubai, Choksi and others without having sanction limit and without obtaining 100% cash margin, which is required if there is no sanction limit. There are multiple entries in the charge sheet which deal directly with acts of omission and commission by your husband, ma'am.
Rahul, that is the FIR.
That's the charge sheet.
The charge sheet, no, it's in, that is the FIR put in the charge sheet. In the charge sheet, if you read, there is no mention of my husband. This is the first report. So it goes into the beginning of the charge sheet.
Well, if there is no charge, then why is the Indian government and why are 8 officials of the Indian government at this moment trying to deport your husband back to the country?
Modi case.
Yes.
Let's be clear. Okay, Rahul, there are two cases. Okay, two distinct cases. There is a Nirav Modi case, which was filed in January 29th, 2018, and 31st, whatever. Then there is a second case, which is against my husband's companies and against my husband's publicly listed companies whose accounts are in the public domain. Okay? These are public companies. And that is the second FIR. This is not one case. These are two very distinct, separate cases.
Leave it to the courts to decide, because I don't want to run a kangaroo court. You've said your piece. It's ultimately in a court of law that Mehul Choksi must prove his innocence or his guilt must be established. Priti Choksi, for joining us from Antigua, you gave us details of what you thought happened, what you saw happen in front of you. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Joining me on